we all know that the police, sorry, ladies and gentlemen, my cable's caught on my chair. The police tend not be big on accountability for their things, for their failings a lot of the time. Not least of which is evident in this statement from a quote-unquote conservative police and crime commissioner for Thames Valley, Matthew Barber, who said that tackling thieves was not solely a job for police. Now, at a point in time, we may have agreed with this, but now with the massively low trust societies that we've cultivated, and with how massively politicized the police have come, I'm sorry, people are not going to take that risk anymore. People at one point in our once civilized society might have taken the risk to deal with a shoplifter who you never know. A lot of people nowadays who are doing these crimes, they're very likely not going to just be having just their body to do these things with. Very likely you see no end of people carrying weapons, and you don't know if the people have weapons on them just hidden under their inside pockets in their jacket or stuff like that. As soon as you try to intervene, they might pull a knife on you or pull a blade on you, or God forbid, pull a gun on you. Right? So we've seen time and time again that criminals will have these weapons, as is the case with every single thing that's going to happen, that the laws put in place controlling these kinds of weapons, for the most part, do nothing but hamper the ability of the law follower to actually protect themselves from criminals who have no respect for the law and will do what they want anyway, namely carry weapons anyway. But people aren't going to take the risk anymore when not only are they at massive risk to their safety, that the police have shown time and time again that odds are if it doesn't fit the leftist narrative of, say, anti-racism or whatever it is, then the person who intervenes is going to be treated the same way that Daniel Penny was. God forbid they intervene in the way that Daniel Penny did and do an unequivocal public good in dealing with Jordan Neely. I believe that's who it was, Jordan Neely, who was posing a massive threat and danger to the rest of the people on the New York subway, because he put him in a chokehold and subdued him, and in the neglect that Jordan Neely received at the hands of the police and paramedics afterwards, who police was caught on camera saying that yes, he has a pulse, but then nothing was given to him and he ended up dying, and they tried to say that Daniel Penny murdered him. They've seen that when they step in and try to do a good thing, the police won't be on their side. The police will try and obfuscate and get away from the accountability and responsibility for these things. So why should the locals then put themselves not only in physical danger, but in potentially legal, judicial, and reputational danger as well? Why should they do it? They shouldn't do it. Now the police, because now society has turned on them, they're like, oh no, how could these people that we've persecuted at every turn, how can these people that we've called racist and xenophobic and we let a bunch of foreign people in gangs rape their daughters for generations now turn on us? Oh, you're part of the problem if you don't help us. Why should we help you? Why should we help you? Why should we help you when you set up bogus things against your fellow man to deliberately skew the statistics on sexual aggravation and those kinds of things? Keep tuned for that, ladies and gentlemen. So this is what Matthew Barber said. He said, if you're not even going to challenge people, you're not going to try and stop them, people will just get away with it. That's not just about policing. That's a bigger problem with society. People who don't do anything, you're part of the problem. Also a bigger problem with society is the importation of people that will do these in disproportionately greater numbers because they don't care. That's also a massive problem with society. But you get thrown in jail for talking about that. You get thrown in jail, or you get hampered by police if you put up a sign like somebody did in North Wales, for example, which said... The sign itself criticised scumbags shoplifting, and the shop owner was told by police to consider changing the wording because it was offensive. Now, why do we have to worry about being offensive to shoplifters? Why do we have to worry about being offensive to shoplifters? By their action, they make everything more expensive anyway, right? Because obviously, basic logical train now, ladies and gentlemen, obviously if somebody steals a bunch of stuff, if people steal a bunch of stuff, then the person who's selling it is not going to make the money back on that. So in order to make up for that loss, they then have to put everything else back at a markup. Not only that, then they have to put diversity barriers and diversity cabinets in place. And then in order to get even things like toothpaste and alcohol and whatever else, you need to get them to come over and open up the cabinet, right? Whereas before you could just go in there, take it off the shelf, pay for it and leave. It's why in Sainsbury's you have alarms on the meat cabinet now, and you have joints of beef. You have joints of beef being netted up in that, netting with the alarm on it, right? Because of how prevalent this has become. And it's only a matter of like the last generation or two. Not even that, just the last generation. You go back and think when you were a kid, none of this was this bad. Now you can't even go to a Tesco's without seeing the alcohol aisle locked up like it's bloody Alcatraz, right? But A, why do we have to worry about the feelings of shoplifters? And B, what is the person getting at? Why are the police taking so much issue with it when the word scumbag is used? Why is it offensive, and who is it offensive to? It's offensive to their protected classes, obviously. It's offensive to their protected classes. Because it's part of the wider generation of sentiment against the political orthodoxy, because it's highlighting, without actually saying it, the unspoken thing that we're all not supposed to say, which is that we know who is doing this in greater proportion versus the native people, and that's something you're not supposed to say. You're not supposed to notice that. But the sign read, as Rob Davis, he's a retro store owner in North Wales. In a shop in Wrexham, he put up a sign that read, "Due to scumbags shoplifting, please ask for assistance to open the cabinets." And obviously it's not the shoplifters that are the problem. It's the people calling them scumbags. Right? It's people calling the protected classes scumbags, and highlighting there's a two-tier system, such as we'll get onto when we talk about Ricky Jones a little bit later. Shop owner said, "If you're offended by my sign, then obviously you're intending to steal from me or are stealing from me. It doesn't even have to be me. It could be a representative of shopkeepers in the UK." And this is a great example, ladies and gentlemen. Last Thursday at an Iceland supermarket in Clifton, so this article was published August 13th, so 2 days ago, time of recording. And then last Thursday from the 13th would have been on the 7th. So on the 7th of August, in Nottinghamshire, Clifton, Nottinghamshire, 2 women were attacked while challenging a suspected shoplifter. The man put his hand around the woman's neck and strangled her after she challenged him for putting items into his backpack. A female member of staff then intervened, and he assaulted her as well. Earlier this week, a man died after being restrained by another customer at a shop in Torpoint, Cornwall, where he had allegedly assaulted staff. So I wouldn't be surprised if the person who dealt with that then gets turned into the next Daniel Penny if the leftists get their way. And this is exactly what it is. The police are now blaming the public for not stepping in and doing their job most of the time, or stepping in and doing their civil duty, when they're being penalised for doing their civil duty, in many instances potentially hospitalised and worse. Right? Not to mention the character assassination and the attacks will come afterwards, particularly if the shoplifter happened to be of a certain race or ethnicity or religion, right? And people, literally, why would they put their lives on the line for this system? Why would they put their lives on the line for this system? Why would people go and fight and die in wars, for example, for a country that's shown that they hate them at every single turn and want to give it over to third worlders? Third worlders are going to do unspeakable things to their family and to their nation. Why would you want to go and fight for this? And when you have no rights whatsoever, anymore, when your democratic right to say what you want and your democratic right to change things by your vote is slowly being eroded away. I apologize if my webcam just went off, ladies and gentlemen. I accidentally opened up Loom as I was trying to get back to OBS tab to see how we were doing for time. But this is the thing. The police are now saying that it's people who don't do anything, you're part of the problem. Well, we could say the same thing about every single police officer, every single police commissioner, every single councillor, every single person all the way up, not only just in the police department, but in governance and everything, who didn't do anything to help the hundreds of thousands and millions of young girls that were attacked and groomed in areas like Telford, Oldham, Rotherham, etc. That they were directly sacrificed. They're directly sacrificed on the altar of multiculturalism and diversity, Islamophobia, etc. Sacrificed on the altar of suicidal empathy. You guys did nothing, and in many instances you actively facilitated and took part in it. You're part of the problem.